an American where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jesse Berger. I'm chairman of Harnett County's Republican Party. Today, we have with us Charlene Nelson, who is one of our district court judge candidates. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to speak with you and to send my message to the voters of Harnett County.
So as we get started, if you could introduce yourself to the county and also to all of the voters in the district that'll be voting for you.
Yes, my name is Charlene Nelson, and I'm running for District Court Judge seat number 2 in Johnston, Harnett, and Lee counties. And would you like me to tell a little bit about myself?
Oh, absolutely. Please. Yes. Let us get to know you a little bit.
Okay. So I practice, my office is in Johnston County in Smithfield on 301. And I've been practicing in Johnston County for about 12 years. I practice in the areas of criminal law and family law. And I have over 30 years of combined legal and business experience that I will be bringing to the bench. In my practice, I handled everything from speeding tickets to capital murder cases. Of the 2 attorneys that are candidates for this seat, I am the only one that is vetted by the state of North Carolina as being qualified to handle capital murder cases. I've tried many jury trials, and on the family law side, I have spent over a decade fighting for the rights of parents to control and make decisions about their family. That the main reason I am running is because what I'm seeing is a chipping away and an attack on the Constitution. I'm a Southern Baptist raised girl, and I am a conservative. My parents were very conservative. We spent a lot of time in church. I tell people that, there was all day on Sunday because it was Sunday school in the morning, Sunday service. You came home, you had dinner, you went back. In the afternoon, there was prayer meeting on Wednesday. There was choir rehearsal on Friday, youth group on Saturday. When I was a kid, it was annoying, to always be in church because a lot of my friends, their parents were not as active. If they went, it was Sunday and they were in service and that was it. We grew up in the church. Now I'm so thankful for that because it did give me a real foundation that I've been able to build my life on, and it has sustained me through times of difficulty. It helps to give me a moral compass when I need to make decisions. And so while as a child, I couldn't see the value of it, I'm really thankful for it now. And I swore on the Bible to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution. And what I'm seeing now is that there are certain people that are making it their mission to slowly chip away at the rights that are given to all citizens under the Constitution. And they're using the judicial branch of our government in a lot of ways to do that, which is it's almost personal to me because it's the country that I love. It's the Constitution that I love. And it's the branch of government that I've dedicated many years of my life to. And so I really feel passionate about the fact that now these rights that our forefathers took great care to give to us are slowly being taken away, and that it seems to be okay with some people. That they don't seem to understand that once you start that, where do you stop? You know, you just slowly chip away to the point that you won't have the life that we're supposed to have, the rights that we're supposed to have. And for me, I feel that one way we can prevent that from happening is to have conservative judges on the bench. And that way, I believe that we can try to stem that tide of people that are wanting to take away the rights that are given to every citizen under the Constitution. And sometimes I wonder why more people are not concerned about that.
Well, I can assure you, I am very concerned with that, and it's been at the forefront of a lot of folks' conversations that I've been talking to. But as you explained all that, I feel like that's a good segue into kind of getting into a little bit of the beginning of this, which is I've asked each candidate to describe in their own words what it means to be a district court judge or appellate court, depending on the interview. But if you could just take a couple minutes and explain to us a little bit, just very briefly, about the judicial system, our legal system here in North Carolina, and what your specific role would be in that structure as a district court judge.
Well, a district court judge is the judge that most people see if they have to come into the court system. That is the judge that if you get a speeding ticket, or, you know, you've shoplifted or something like that, you'll come in, and that is the judge that you're more likely to see. If you're getting a divorce, or if you need a domestic violence protective order, those are the district court judge's duties normally, to handle those types of cases. But they also do work with felony cases, with serious felony cases. They set bonds on felony cases. They do hear some motions, probable cause hearings, and such as that. And also, they take pleas on H&I level felonies in district court. And so it's important to have a well-rounded person with a well-rounded experience in the court system in that seat, for a couple reasons. One, from the actual, just the district court perspective, the judges rotate. So a judge may be doing criminal court today, civil court tomorrow, you know, felony probable cause court the next day. So you need to have, or family court, you need to have a knowledge base that will allow you to go back and forth through those different courts. And I've done that. I've done that for 12 years in my practice. And when I say that I have experience in these courts, it's not just that I've been in this court and I've been in that court, because you can say you have experience in a court and you've only been in there once or twice. When I speak of my experience, I'm not speaking of the courts that I've only been in once or twice. I'm talking about courts that I have practiced in consistently for years. And that is the vast majority of with the exception of one or two or three of our district courts. I've been in them all. I've practiced in them all for years consistently. And I think that that's very important, because when you come to the bench, and I'm not saying that I don't have anything to learn, I think that life is a learning process. And if you're smart, you're going to learn your whole life. But it's important from the first day that a judge takes the bench that they have knowledge of the little nuances and workings in the different courts. from just something as basic as the different forms that are used in that court. If you have a case and you happen to come into the court on the judge's first day, you don't care if it's their first day or if it's their 1000th day. You want somebody capable up there handling that case. And I think that that is what sets me apart here, is that I have that depth and breadth of experience. Now, from the conservative position, the reason why it's important not only to have a person in that seat, but the district court is the entry level, so to speak, court judge position. And it's the feeder, it's the pipeline that you go up from there, potentially to Superior Court, maybe Court of Appeals, maybe Supreme Court. So I believe that it's important to have not only conservative judges, but qualified conservative judges with enough experience handling heavy, serious cases, that when they're looking for someone for the Court of Appeals, for the Supreme Court, that we have the candidates out there that has the qualifications to be able to move up. And so while, of course, it's important that you focus on the job at hand, you also cannot lose focus of the fact that this is a pool from which they may very well be drawing other judges for higher courts. And if our conservative judges just barely have enough qualifications to be a district court judge, and you're looking at the whole state as a whole for your pool of judges, I feel as though we may not have the best chance of getting our candidates taken up through the ranks.
Well, I appreciate that answer. I always find it fascinating learning more about our system, and how the more I talk with people, the more I realize how little I know, no matter how much I learn. But I would like to ask now a second question. As you talked about your upbringing and your background and all of those different things, how does that impact your judicial philosophy, and what is your judicial philosophy?
Well, I believe that it impacts my judicial philosophy in that, again, it gives me a moral compass. It's not that I think that I'm holier than thou or anything like that, but I do believe that it's important that a judge is honest, that you're fair, that you have a certain amount of integrity that you're going to bring to the bench. And that influence, that base of being Bible bred, it does give you a conscience. It gives you a conscience that, won't let you sleep well when you're doing things that are wrong and that you shouldn't be doing. So I think that that is where it's important and where it's valuable. As far as my philosophy is concerned, I believe that when a person comes into court, everyone deserves to be heard. They deserve to have a judge that's going to listen, apply the law, that they're not going to step up there and have someone that has preconceived notions and have already made up their mind before they hear the facts and the merits of the case. And so for me, that's the philosophy: being fair, listening, being knowledgeable, trying to stay up on the changes in the law and applying the law fairly, making sure that even if a person doesn't get what they want in my courtroom, that they can at least leave feeling as though they had a fair day in court and that the judge did listen to them and that they were heard.
And the next question I'd like to ask is related to your judicial discretion overall. But how will you were talking about how there's a lot of judges that have been trying to legislate from the court, and they're doing that pretty much exclusively on the left side of the aisle. So when it comes to judicial discretion, it's my understanding that they are still within the confines of their judicial discretion with a lot of these decisions that they're making and things that they're allowing to happen. So how will you use your judicial discretion to be a counterbalance to some of your colleagues that are maybe overstepping their boundaries and going further than what they're supposed to be?
Well, I think that as a human being, you can't help but bring your own perspective, your experiences, your beliefs to your decision-making process. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone that comes through your court has to believe the same way that you do or agree with your opinions. But I do believe that, again, having that base upon which it does influence how you think, how you make decisions, what your decisions are going to be. I think that is where we're at a disadvantage, because, as you said, a lot of what's happening is happening on the other side of the aisle. And I think that that's a perfect example of the way you think and you believe are kind of influencing the decisions that you make. And I don't believe in legislating from the bench. There are times when a judge in their discretion can see that a law is unconstitutional. And if a judge sees that a law is unconstitutional, the judge does have the discretion to say, I'm not going to follow this law at this time because it's unconstitutional, and here is why. And then that case would more than likely be appealed and go up to a higher court for a decision to see if that judge was correct in their ruling or not. I don't believe that judges should legislate. That's why we have 3 branches of government.
Right.
And they're distinct and separate so that we have those checks and balances.
So I guess the next area I'd like us to go into a little bit is the symbiotic relationship that exists between the decisions that are handed out by the courts, which are designed to maintain order, in a fair manner, and the impact that it has on the communities. So, for example, if you could talk a little bit about, we mentioned bonds earlier. Discuss maybe how having higher bonds or lower bonds might impact the community on a larger scale if a judge is maybe using their discretion inappropriately or incorrectly.
Well, there are laws that say that a judge cannot set a bond that is excessive under the circumstances. Now, I think that under the circumstances means that you have to consider the offense that the person is charged with committing. You have to consider their record. How does that play in? Is this a repeat offender? Or is it a first-time offender? Sometimes a bond will need to be high simply because even though they're a first-time offender, the offense is so serious that you need to protect the community. And that's a issue that you weigh when you're setting a bond. The purpose of the bond is to ensure that the person will come back to court and resolve the case, and also to protect the community if that person is a danger to the community. And so I do believe that there are times when you need to put a bond on a person that is heavy enough that they will either be in jail or someone is going to have a lot of faith in them to put up a lot of collateral to ensure that they return to court. And usually if a person has that much faith in them, they probably will feel like they're not going to, to harm anybody while they're out on the bond that they've put up their house or their collateral for. There are times when a person may not need a really, really high bond. And it's a case by case basis. It's hard to say, oh, I would always give a high bond, because you have sometimes there are children that may go in the store and take something and they're charged with shoplifting. And while, of course, that's wrong and you want them to see the seriousness of it, you also don't necessarily want to give them $100,000 bond and put them in jail when, they went in the store and they stole, some chips or whatever, and they got a shoplifting charge. So I think that, again, that's where having somebody that's level-headed, able to really have a good sense of being able to weigh the situation. And that's why it's important, again, who's in the seat, because you do have some discretion, some decisions that you're going to make that are totally up to you as a judge. And those decisions do impact the community. My family lives in this community. I raised my children here. They went off to college. They came back, and they, as adults, live in this community. And so the safety of this community is of the utmost importance, because, not only for the rest of society, but I'm on these streets and so are my children. And so I would be thinking long and hard before I put anyone out on the street that had committed a crime where I thought for 1 minute that they may harm someone else in the interim.
And in your years of experience, I don't want to put you too much on the spot, but are there any examples of cases that have come through that you were involved with, or that you really stood out to you, that maybe had a larger public impact on maybe perception of the court, building trust and faith in it, or feeling like things are going well, versus maybe a case where things went the opposite direction? They ended up deteriorating faith in the courts and in the system.
Not that I've been involved in. I haven't really had the kind of high profile cases that the public would be well aware of to have that kind of an impact, so to speak. I've had very serious cases that I've handled over the years, but I'm just a small town lawyer. And so, I'm not, some big fancy lawyer that's always on television and
Sure.
know about my work. I'm just kind of out here toiling away in relative obscurity. and which isn't it's not an advantage when I'm trying to do something like this.
Right.
Because it would be nicer if I had more, flash and name recognition. But I don't. And that's why it's important that I'm able to get here in front of your voters and let them get to know me, because I'm here and I'm out here working hard. I'm fighting for all of your rights. And I've been fighting for the same things that you all have been fighting for, not only in the courtroom, but as far as being involved with the GOP in Johnston County and trying to get conservative candidates elected and trying to protect the vote. And again, trying to fight against government overreach when it comes to parents and their children and being able to make decisions about what happens in your household. I've been front and center when Johnston County became a two-way sanctuary, when they were trying to take away your Second Amendment rights. And I think, and that was actually before the whole COVID thing. And my thought when COVID occurred was, you go in the store and there's no food on the shelf. And so if you can't have your gun How can you hunt? You know, I mean, it's for protection too, but it's also for the livelihood of your family. If we're in a situation, you're taking away all the farmers, you're taking away all the farms. You know, we're not having food that's grown here.
Mhm.
And so now we have a pandemic. Pandemic.
Yes.
And and you go in the grocery store and there's no food. Well, maybe you can go out and you can hunt and you can get a deer and you can feed your family and maybe even feed your neighbor's family as well. But now you have no gun to do that. And so again, I think that you have to think past the narrative of, you know, guns are inherently bad and guns kill people. No, they don't. People kill people. And if you take away guns, they'll just use Molotov cocktails or knives or something else. It won't stop people from killing people that want to kill people
Right.
simply because they don't have a gun. And nor will it stop people from having guns. It'll only stop the law abiding people from having guns because people that aren't going to abide by the law will have them anyway.
So I'd like to go back to another item that you'd mentioned earlier when you were talking about the oath of office and defending the Constitution. Um, I've read through the North Carolina oath of office for judges, and there's an area of it that doesn't exist in the oath that I had to take when I was in the service, which is to defend the Constitution against enemies, both foreign and domestic.
Mhm.
What I have been very appalled by is the fact that we are changing words to mean whatever we feel like they mean in the moment. And the term enemy domestic is something that I've been very curious to have a more legally minded person explain to me, because you know, all of us watched during the lockdowns and whatnot. We watched our cities burn. We watched riots happen where things were literally being torn apart, hundreds of millions of dollars in damages. And then we saw a group of people break into the Capitol building and they were labeled domestic terrorists. So, and then we're also seeing parents that are showing up at school boards and saying, we want to know what you're teaching our children, and they're being labeled as domestic terrorists. So what is, or is there a legal definition for enemy domestic, and how can we identify what that is?
And that is a very good question. And, you know, protest is as American as apple pie. You look at the Boston Tea Party, that was a protest. And so, as American citizens, we do have a right to peacefully protest. And our founding fathers wanted us to have that right to be able to speak out and voice our concerns. I think when you start destroying other people's property, when you start hurting other people physically, that is where it crosses the line. Um, we need to protest peacefully. We need to demonstrate peacefully. That's not a time to get new televisions and, you know, new appliances and you know, things like that. That I think that there are a lot of people that really do distract from the cause, which are, some of them are legitimate causes. But when you start doing that type of thing, then nobody really wants to hear what you have to say. And so I think that that is kind of where you then cross the line from being an American that's exercising your right to protest to then making it a criminal offense.
Yeah, it's precarious times that we find ourselves in, where words are being manipulated all over the place. And, you know, the biggest concern comes with, for me personally, and a lot of my peer group, it comes from the side of parents that are concerned that we're going to start seeing legal verbiage and games in the legal system that start saying things like, well, if your child emotionally feels hurt, then that's the same as physical pain. And so if you don't immediately start affirming your child's gender transition, you're harming the child. And in my mind, I'm protecting my child from what is a much darker path that they could end up going down. So I do appreciate your answer to that and some of that explanation. I would like to ask another question, and you did kind of discuss this initially, but would like to just expand upon it, which is, why do you want to be a judge? What is it that you believe that you'll be able to impact, or that or try and change and influence as a judge?
Well, first of all, again, I bring over 30 years of business and legal experience to the bench. And so I think that, just the amount of experience at both legal and business that I bring is going to be an enhancement to our district. I'm the only female in this group of 4 candidates for 2 different seats that are open in our district right now. And so, I think from that perspective, that sets me apart from my opponent and the other 2 colleagues that are running for seat number 3. Because, I'm a woman and we see things just a little differently. And I think that that's good, to have different perspectives and different people from different walks of life that are coming to the bench. I think that, that's what we have in America. We have men, we have women, we have people from all different walks of life. And so to have a bench that's representative of that, I don't think that could be anything but an asset to our district.
Well, again, I really appreciate your time. And before we close out, I'd like to just give you a couple minutes if you'd like to make any statements to the voters of the district and to Harnett County specifically.
Yes. Well, I would just like to say that, first of all, I appreciate anyone who's taken the time to watch this interview. My website is www.voteforcharlenenelson.com. My Facebook page is Vote for Charlene Nelson. There is a little bit about me on the Facebook page and on the website. I am open to speaking with people. I think it's important for you to know who you are voting for. This is not a popularity contest. I'm not a politician, so I'm sure that in this interview, I probably said some of the wrong things, so to speak. But and that is for me the hardest part, because I'm not a public speaker and I'm not a politician. I'm just a business person and a local attorney that sees a need in my community. I have the skill set and the knowledge to fulfill that need. And I believe that if you see that there's things going wrong and there's something that you can do to help, and you just sit by and you don't even try to help, then you're part of the problem. And I'm trying to be part of the solution.
Well, like I said before, we're in precarious times, and most folks I speak with, especially the older folks, say they've never seen the country in this position. So I appreciate your courage and your bravery for stepping up and putting your hat in the ring, especially in a time when a lot of people don't want to be involved with public service because they've given up. So I'm very deeply appreciative of that. Charlene Nelson, thank you so much for your time. Good luck to you in the primaries, and I look forward to seeing you around the county.
And when they try to trample on your constitutional rights, put them in a full Nelson.
There you go.
Vote for Charlene Nelson, May 17th.
All righty, Charlene. Thank you.
And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. I won't